everyone. We are in the very beautiful Old School Cafe in Bayview, San Francisco, California. I'm only doing that because this is going to eventually be aired, as course pieces of it might be aired and broadcasted throughout the country via the White House website. So we are really, really excited today to host the White House Winning the Future Youth Roundtable. And I am honored to be here with our very prestigious guests from both Washington, D.C. and then, of course, our local guest. Before I go into introducing them, I just want to mention that actually all of our guests are actually at one point in time San Francisco residents. So they definitely have their heart still in San Francisco, and I'm so glad that they came down to San Francisco. So first, I am Maria. I'm the director for the Department of Children, Youth, and Their Families, and I'm joined by our Honorable Mayor, Mayor Edwin Lee, as well as the Assistant Secretary of HUD in the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity from the Washington, D.C. office, John Trespina, and Ane Casada from our San Francisco HUD office, and she's the Center Director. So I'm going to hand this over to Mayor Lee to continue the conversation. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. As well as the supervisor for District 10, for Bayview District, Malia Cohen, and of course, President of the San Francisco Board of Education, Hydra Mendoza, who's also here to join us. Mayor Lee.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right. And thank you for being here. I've been here, and so has Supervisor Malia Cohen been here most of the morning because we got a lot of work to do in our community in the Bayview. And I'm very happy for all of you to be here at the Old School Cafe, one of my favorite places to be here. And I've got my education advisor, Hydra, and my director of Children, Youth, and Family, Maria, that will be here with you the rest of the day. But as important as we are here, we got a direct connect to President Obama this morning, and that's very, very special. Assistant to a deputy for HUD, John Trespina, has a long history with this city, and I think he volunteered to really get out of here to work with you to make sure this roundtable and your opinions would be heard directly to our White House, because our president has not only been leading the country in so many other things, but one of his top priorities has been to make sure that our youth, our future, is engaged with both local government as well as understanding what's happening on the national scene. I have to do that as well. I could not possibly run this city without strong opinions coming from the community, from youth, as well as then representing the city, and then understanding where the president is trying to take this country, and then moving all of our things together, all of the agendas together. So this engagement is important to Malia and I, so that we know what your ideas are and how you think this city and this country can work better with your ideas. That's what this whole engagement is. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for you to express your opinions about what's happening in your lives. What kind of city, what kind of community do you want to have happen, the things that you think are important, so that we as people who work in government can make sure that we're paying attention to that. So I'm very happy to be here today, and I want to thank the Old School Cafe for hosting this. But we're here to listen. We're here to also ask questions about and challenge you to give us the appropriate answers, so that we could, through those answers, then make some choices for ourselves as to where we fund things, where we set priorities, what we need to do to pay attention to things that connect you up, that make you feel, is this a safer community for you? Do you feel there's a future for yourself? Are there opportunities out there that you think are important? Or how do we open those opportunities? How do we make sure we are listening better? And all of your different viewpoints about the culture of this city are important to us as well. I'm making decisions every day. I hope I'm making the right ones. But the best way to know that is to make sure we're opening up dialogue and making sure everybody's talking to us. So all of you are connected in some way. I think you're You're already powerful leaders by your presence here. So I very much appreciate your engagement, and you're helping us answer the very, very tough questions of how we move forward with everybody in the city. Thank you very much. Supervisor, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to just say good morning, welcome, and it feels really good to be here at the Old School Cafe. I wanted to encourage you and let you know that I was you. When I was in high school, I was active in youth activities. At the time, it was called the Mayor's Youth Forum. It was the predecessor to the Youth Commission. So I applaud you for being here at the table. It's really important. I know sometimes you go through a lot of these meetings and policy discussions, and there might be a little part of you that actually wonders if your voice and your opinions matter and if people are actually listening to you. And I want you to know that people do listen. And also, this is as much of a benefit for you as it is for us, the White House and elected leaders. It's important for us to get your feedback on how you'd like the direction that the city to be going in, but also this is an opportunity for you to cultivate your leadership skills and be exposed to those persons that are making decisions that will most hopefully inspire you to continue through your life and your professional career in a leadership position, and honoring your commitment to bring about change. So today's discussion is about winning the future, and it's very apropos that we're here in the southeast part of the city, because when we think about the future of San Francisco, it rests right here in our neighborhood. And so with that, I just want to kick off today's discussion. I'll encourage you to be thoughtful, excited, share your vision, and I want to encourage you to be candid about your conversation and know that the words that you say are implanted in our hearts and our minds, because we, like you, are San Franciscans and do care about our city and want to see the city to thrive and to be robust and welcoming for all people. So thank you for being here. I'm happy to be here. And with that, let's get started.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much, and particularly when we started to discuss this in Washington about 10 days ago, we reached out to San Francisco, to your staff, Mayor Lee, and people just picked up on it right away. This time of year, if you're still in school, you're probably cramming, doing all the work, didn't do all semester, cramming for final exams. This mayor has been cramming 4 years of being mayor into about 10 months. And I come back to San Francisco quite a bit. I see him on Saturdays at different places, and the whole mayor's team has been out explaining the budget in all the 11 districts. So I appreciate your staff's work in organizing this, but particularly, I think, even though we have the titles, the important people around this room are at these tables, because we need to hear from you. The president and the cabinet members and the Congress can write all the policies, the laws, regulations we want, but unless they're grounded in reality, the reality of what you're facing on a day-to-day basis, what works, what doesn't work, it's not going to work. And that's why we are, as the White House and the White House staff, we're holding about 100 of these sessions around the nation this month and next month. It is primed to make sure that young people between 18 and 24, in school, out of school, transitioning, that we hear from you as to what the realities are in communities. Now, I'm more oriented to housing. Housing is an important platform. It's where you live often determines where you go to school, the opportunities you have, if there's a grocery store in your neighborhood or not, if there's transit lines that are going to make jobs accessible to you and to your family. So the work that we do at HUD, it is oftentimes it's sending money down to communities, but we insist on communities really having participation, so that the decisions that are being made are made with a reflection on what the needs are of the community. Now, over the years, San Francisco hasn't looked like it looks today. Most of you probably weren't born when the Moscone Center was first thought of. Prior to the time of the Moscone Center, there was a neighborhood. A lot of Filipino elderly and others lived along Mission Street. Decisions were made by HUD and by the city right along. Decisions are made to transform that community. South of the Market area didn't look like it looked today. Didn't look like it looked when 20, 30 years ago. So the decisions that HUD makes today and are made at City Hall are going to affect you in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. So you have to be part of that discussion. So rather than give a long speech, I just want to lay out the framework of today, is to really hearing from you on the type of vision of what you think the city ought to look like, what type of services are out there, whether services may come short, how we tie in our decisions on housing with education. Visitation Valley, the middle school out here, it didn't always exist. It was a big deal when Visitation Valley and Potrero Hill middle schools opened up. So these are the kinds of decisions at a very local level that have a direct impact on people of your age, people of my age, and in between. So we will take back the things that you educate us on today. I'm sure there will be debate about different priorities, but we'll take that back. We'll take that back to Washington, so it will be part of the mix, part of the discussion with the other 99 or so discussions that are being held in communities across the country. Some that are very diverse, like San Francisco, others that are not. Some are at rural, agricultural, across the nation. Some of the work that HUD is doing today is vitally important for people. The people in Alabama and in Georgia and Tennessee right now who are faced by the tornadoes and then by the flooding, this is where HUD can play a role. But the only way we can be ready in an emergency is if we've done the hard work, we've done our homework. And that means listening to you, listening to your counterparts around the country. So I've already had some good discussions with Happy and with Jose Luis and Rochelle and Leah and others, and really want to hear from all of you today. So give me the ammunition, take it back to Washington so that we can get some things done.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. So before we delve into the activity of what the ideal community for youth would look like, feel like, sound like, I would love for the youth to go around the room, say your name, age, and what agency or youth leadership group you represent.
Okay, so hello, my name is Valerie. I'm 20 years old, and the agents, I have two different ones. I work with the Youth Warriors and Youth Outlook.
My name is Andrew. I'm 18 and I'm with Old School Cafe.
Hello, my name is Renee. I'm 19 years old. I'm the president of the club Yabasta from City College.
I'm Jose Luis Mejia, 23, and I work with the Transitional Age Youth Initiative of San Francisco and the Conscious Youth Media Group.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm 17. I work with the Youth Commission and the Youth Advisory Council.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm 17. I'm part of the Youth Empowerment Fund Advisory Board and the Youth Warrior.
Hi, I'm Leah. I just turned 20, and I am the chair of the San Francisco Youth Commission.
Hi, I'm Desiree. I'm 18, and I work with Old School Cafe.
Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm 17. I'm part of the Youth Empowerment Fund Advisory Board and Youth Advisory Council.
Hi, I'm Tammy Vaitai, and I'm 18. I'm 20, sorry. And just repeating. And I'm with Old School Cafe.
Hi, I'm Clyde Jones, and I'm 18, and I'm a part of Youth Empowerment Fund Advisory Board.
Hi, I'm Marisol. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a youth commissioner.
Hello, I'm Robin. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a part of Youth Warriors, Youth Works, the Exploratorium. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Angel Carrion, and I work for the Juvenile Advisory Council.
I'm Daniel. I'm 18, and I work here at Old School Cafe.
Hello, I'm Joseph. I'm 17, and I work with Old School Cafe also.
I'm Darren. I'm 19, and I work with Old School Cafe.
I'm Vanessa. I'm 18, and I work at Lyric and also with the Youth Warriors.
Hi, I'm Mr. Happy. I work in the San Francisco Youth Commission, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm 17 years old, and I'm currently working in the Student Advisory Council and the Youth Advisory Council.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over to Nayad, and she's going to delve into the ideal community activity.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nayad Ibrahimian. I work for the Department of Children, Youth, and their Families, and I'm the Youth Empowerment Coordinator there. And so what we would like to do right now is to present to you our ideal youth community. So we broke up into groups of 3, led by our wonderful youth facilitators, who I'd like to introduce. We have Jose Luis Mejia, we have Vanessa Lee, and Marisol Bolak. So Jose Luis, if you can, with your team, present your ideal community first.
So we did a couple things. We did the drawing exercise that we're told to do here, and then we took some notes that kind of just describes everything that you see here, which is kind of hard to take in because it's a lot over here. So just to start off, everything that I'm about to name off here are all free services or what have you. So to start off, we have education, K through post-secondary education should be free. We have housing programs, youth-centered transition planning, culturally competent education, and also cultural competency trainings for educators, service providers, and on in city departments. We also have free transportation, marriage rights for everyone, including our gay LGBTQ community, clean community, transitional housing, recreation centers, food for all. In regards to education, I skipped around this. Ethnic studies starting in middle school, access to resources. So that's a lot of what we're mentioning here. Free. What is? I don't know what that one is here.
Multiple services.
Oh, yeah. Free multi-service centers. So that would be, centers where folks can, benefit from different services in one place, so you don't have to do the run around in the city like we know we do. Also, internships for youth, so like service learning type of things where a young person can go learn about something by doing it. Downtown High School has like a math class where you learn about math by building a boat that they actually get to sail on. So there's something more interesting ways to learn traditional subjects. Free childcare for all, free hospitals, so health care for all, training centered or youth centered training and centers for youth to receive different type of training, real rehabilitation in the justice system, so more like restorative justice instead of a lot of just sending our youth to jails without, where sometimes they come out worse than they came in, like we were just talking about here before. Also, healthy food, so organic food, access to food, clean energy sources, a greener city with more trees, nature, parks, and places of recreation. So we're also talking about health inspectors, so ensuring that we have a healthy community. Folks, we're talking about healthy paint and building materials, and to ensure that our health is taken care of. And also reparations for Native Americans and African Americans and other people who have been harmed through American wars. That's what we have. It's the ideal community.
So our ideal community has a lot of things that they cover, but for example, we have school, we want education, we want to, also we have youth programs after school, so we can apply our knowledge we learn at school to youth programs such as summer camps, play sports or activist group, and also we want transportation because youth cannot support our own self financially very much, so we hope we can have transportation. We hope that we have youth employment so that we can learn something as a person, and we hope we want fair housing because in our area there are a lot of raising the house rent, so that a lot of poor people get kicked out of the housing, so we want fair housing or for homeless people. We also want community gardening so that people can come into their gardening and plant food or vegetables so we can have social life and also make our community more beautiful. Also, we want parks so then we can have recreational activity to relax ourselves. And also we want library. Library provide us a lot of resources, not only books, but also, librarians and library are really helpful. Also, we want youth space, youth clinic, hospitals, so again, we can have good physical, mental health for youth. And then, last but not least, we want to bring up unity in our community, that youth can have a good life, we can community well with other age group in our community. And one thing I just come up with is that I hope that we can have more forum like this so that decision makers can hear what youth think about, just like what happened in Youth Commission. Thank you.
Now, great news here from my sales team, which Robin brought our to facilitate.
Hello, everyone. Well, we thought we were all going to be able to present, so hopefully I'll speak well for the group. So our community is hope and opportunity, and we did the California outline. So pretty much we had a general theme of intervention and prevention with our community, so I'll just start. So family support, there needs to be more services and opportunities for families to be supported as a unit, and not everybody thinking in separate entities like, oh, well, since I'm 17, my mom doesn't understand what I'm going through. There needs to be like more of a family support so families can work together and, do stuff in their community. Also, we've thought about no youth discrimination, because a lot of people think that since you're a youth, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what's going on in the world, and we felt that was a problem that needs to be addressed. Also, one thing that we wanted to get across was healthy school food, lunches, and meals, because if we come to school every day and we're doers, we're told, we should know that at lunchtime we can have a meal that looks appetizing. Also, we wanted no more cuts to education. If things in the Middle East are starting to change, then there should be more money taken from that budget to go back into education. Also, we wanted a reliable law enforcement, so officers won't think that they're just over youth and that they tell us what to do, that they are a part of the community and not a separate entity. Also, we thought about the voting age for youth. What if it was 16? And not 18. If we can drink at 21, we can drive at 16, we can go to war at 18, we should be able to vote too, because we do listen and see what's going on in the community. Also, we don't encourage smoking near school campuses, around school campuses, and in general, because it's bad for your health. Also, we didn't want any pollution. The Bayview has a lot of pollution facilities that are just taken away from the lives of these people over here at high rates, and we need to see what we can do to make that go away, or at least, be taken care of. Also, we wanted to talk about youth development organizations and after-school programs and job training and solid jobs, not just something that a youth does for 6 months to a year and then it's over with, something that can give them more building blocks to be successful in the world outside of an education, because not everybody feels that school is for them. Some people want to go a different route, and they should be given those alternatives. Also, we talked about youth voice in the community and also in politics and government, because decision makers make decisions that highly affect us, and we do know about it, and we need to feel that we're more a part of the process and not just certain elected leaders who speak for us. We need to be able to speak for ourselves too, because as you know, this is 2011 and things aren't as traditional as they used to be, and there needs to be a change in how we can go forward and not backwards, because the youth, we want to go forward, yeah. So I think I touched on pinnacle points, but last but not least, I touched on wellness. Yeah, I'm going to touch on wellness. So our wellness initiative, students need to go somewhere where they can talk to somebody and get some counseling, as opposed to, being told, oh, since you're acting up today, you're going to go to the police station or you're going to get picked up. They should be able to just go somewhere safe and blow some steam off. So that's our hope and opportunity community and what we would like to see. Thank you.
Mayor Lee needs to go to another event, but I want to say thank you so much for being here, and Hydra and Maria will definitely follow up with you on the items that are discussed today. So thank you so very much.
Very informative. Please keep having that voice, because I will listen and I will act on it. Okay? Thank you very much.
To lead the next discussion, and I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Sharice Dorsey from the Department of Children, Youth, and their Families. So, Jose.
All right. So, as we know, this is an interesting exercise, right? But to be honest and speak in real terms, we know that this is an ideal community, and unfortunately, especially with all the cuts that we're experiencing in the country and the state and down to the city level, a lot of these things are not gonna just happen, right? So what we're about to talk about is have a little discussion about what are the challenges and barriers to making some of these things happen. So we're going to be taking some notes over here. We want to just go around and just, you know, remember, so we didn't go through the agreements, but just if we go through some things like, you know, who knows what one mic is? Anybody know what that is? Somebody want to say what it is really quick for the group? Happy?
One mic just means one person speak at a time. You know, other people.
I'll take that with me.
Yeah, he wants to take it with them.
So we'll make sure we have a productive conversation. Everyone has a chance to speak. What about step up, step down? Does folks know what that is? No? Okay. So step up, step down is pretty much if you are speaking a lot in this discussion, then, you know, be conscious of that and give other folks around you a chance to speak. And if you aren't really speaking up too much, then we challenge you to step it up and have your voice heard. All right. So what is one challenge that somebody right off the bat knows that's making some of these things difficult?
Your age.
Your age?
Yeah, can be a challenge or a barrier, because if you're not a certain age, you're not able to vote, so you really don't all the time have a voice in what goes on in your community.
Okay.
Or in law.
Okay. Right. And how about something related to what you're saying is if folks don't consider, because of your age, don't want to hear that voice, then maybe the challenge is also folks don't want to hear a young person, right? So how about changing the decision-making process, would you say?
Yeah.
It's like, that's one of the challenges, the way decisions are made, right? We don't have that actual power sometimes to say, for it to count as much as some of the policymakers, right? Definitely. That's a great one. Any others? Yeah.
So one is, I think people being resistant to change in the neighborhoods, like, or just like society in general, and also funding.
Just like your living situation. For example, if there's homeless youth, that really affects. That's a really big challenge towards them in the community.
The current priorities of the budget, like currently they're prioritizing like police, defense, rather than like education, when there should be more money placed into education, because we are like the youth are the future and whatnot. So it's kind of like the root of the cause. We should go to the root rather than trying to find more defense.
Priorities is crucial. Maybe if you have your hand in.
Yeah, mine was basically sort of the same as a couple of these young ladies. Just supporting organizations like nonprofit organizations, really looking into them and actually trying to really support them financially and just be in back of them and help out with that. Because I know there's a lot of organizations, especially in San Francisco, but that's the problem sometimes, is people just like, there's too many, why should I choose you, why should I fund you and stuff. But I think if those who are offering funding really look into the organizations and seeing actually, what are you guys doing, come to the organization, see what we're about, and see, and you'll see what's actually worth it and what's not. So
thank you. That's great. Did you have your hand?
I think youth in the workforce needs to be tapped on, because youth seen their parents go through the recession. They seen people get laid off, and they seen the effects of not having financial stability. And now that they're taking that burden upon themselves to wanting a job and wanting to step out into the world themselves. So if they had more solid job training and actual jobs that can stick with them throughout their high school or educated career, I think it would be better for them as a person, because they could take that forward with their education in their life. Because if you work somewhere for just 6 months and then you're out of a job, that's not really helping you, gain valuable skills, as opposed to if you were somewhere for 2 years, you get the chance to grow and advance and, seek other opportunities within that organization, as opposed to just being a one small part and then, you get the boot because there's no more funding for you to actually have a job. So I think if, there was more emphasis on work development and training and keeping youth in the workforce, I think, that would be good for youth in their lives and what they want to get into when they go to college and, how they see taking care of themselves and their families.
I think one barrier is constant budget cuts that's happening to our education system, because I can see that the class sizes have been bigger and bigger, so then teachers have paid less attention to individual students, so that I hope that we can have better, more funding for education. So then, and also I hope that education can be figured toward what student really needs, because some students need more training about, to focus on studying, and some other students need more advanced placement classes. So I hope that the education system can get toward solve the specific needs of specific students. Yeah.
I think a barrier that we face as youth is the environment that you live in, the communities that you grow up in, and lack of support from, I would say, a leader figure. And when I say that, I'm talking about a teacher, a mom, a big brother, a friend, someone you would look up to. So lack of support from them and just the environment you grow up in, because a lot of the environments the youth is growing up in now, it's not all that it should be.
A huge barrier would be gender or orientation discrimination, because I feel like there should be more culturally competent trainings for just youth service providers. Anyone who works with youth should be adequately trained in cultural competency in order for there to be overall a better community.
Yeah, I think adequate schooling in the juvenile justice system, and whereas teachers are also culturally competent and aware of what the students are going through in the juvenile hall or even in jails, and also you have their undivided attention. Well, I know the behavior may play a difference, but if they're incarcerated there, I think parenting programs, you find a lot of parents in these systems, parenting programs, child development, education programs, those things are taken away from at a time in their life when all they have to do is kind of think. So I think it would be a good idea to have the
Adding on to that, to the juvenile justice system, I think there should be more of a focus on restorative justice instead of punitive justice. So you give kids an alternative route and then a second chance instead of just locking them up or expelling them or suspending them. So, yeah.
So really quick, since we're talking about challenges, would you say that the way that would be framed or worded as a challenge would be more the way that the system's structured right now? Right, because it does not necessarily made so that everyone has restorative justice. So maybe the way that the system is in place right now. Right? Okay. Any others? Yeah.
I say lack of resources and lack of proper knowledge, the correct knowledge, I would say, because sometimes youth get knowledge from different peoples, but it don't be correct. And we'll try to get resources from somewhere and it'll be wrong, or you have to do phone tag and run around and do different things, and most youth ain't gonna go out that far to do that, So I guess just making resources more accessible to us, or giving us the proper knowledge we need.
So accessibility, yeah.
One big thing that I've noticed is immigrant students who aren't from America and who want to come out here and be educated and be somebody and do more with their life. They have so many barriers just to trying to get a job or trying to come to school in peace without somebody finding out and knocking at their door, and it's not a safe environment for them to flourish in, especially if they just want to come to school and get their education. I think there needs to be more resources and opportunities catered to that diverse community of people, so they can feel like they're a part of the community and not an alien. They can know that I can go to school comfortably and be who I am and be where I'm from, have a different language barrier than other people and still feel okay about it and not get questioned about it oh, how did you get into this classroom? Are you sure you're an AP student? Shouldn't you be over here at ESL or something? I think they should have more resources and services catered towards building them, making sure that they're built strong as youth, so as they get older and they get into, you know, being in the community more, they feel comfortable, they feel happy, they feel supported, and they don't feel pushed away. So then that only makes them stick with, you know, their certain community of people as opposed to being introduced to everybody who lives in the community. So I think that's something that should be addressed.
Just add on to what Robin said. Personally, I'm an immigrant student. When I was in my English language development class, I feel like in my class we really lack a lot of resources that we don't know what ourselves do. For example, organization or community opportunities. Like in our class, no one told us about it. So then I hope what barriers that, you know, to break down this barrier, I hope that there are more, you know, information for this group of students, because they just don't know what's really going on in the city and in this country. So I hope there are more resources for them.
Also, to piggyback on what you said, it could be resources and information provided to their housing, to where they live at. So if mom and grandpa and first generation have like issues with them going to work or going here and there because they might find out that there's other people in the household who are immigrants, they could all go somewhere where they all feel comfortable and they can all get the same resources and the same knowledge, as opposed to having different knowledges from different, you know, time eras or where it came from or who heard it. So they can all be on the same page as to how can we make this work for us as a whole, and not only make it work for the one person who can go to school. I think that would be a nice way for them to sort of open up as a family, develop a community for where they live, and also combat a lot of the issues that they have, you know, coming out here, you know, living in America, living in this community, and how things are much different from, you know, their homeland.
So, brother, right here.
And also another barrier is on the buses on uni. A lot of people might not feel safe on uni. You know, especially going to the back. Sometimes a lot of racketness, or there's kids that a lot of people have fear of intimidation. A lot of people get intimidated by others. So I feel if they're safer in uni rides, people will catch the buses more and want to, you know, reach out to other places and go other places rather than just stay in their own location. Because not everybody has a car, not everybody can get a license. So I feel like safer bus rides will contribute best to this in one way.
I think another barrier too is like, how can I say this? So basically, the way I'm looking at it is like, I know a lot of youth that's young youth, like younger youth, not youth that's just like 16 and 24, but youth that's younger than that, 12, 13, 14. And them is the youth that I notice is getting into a lot of trouble, whether it be graffitiing, rioting, or gun violence, you know. I think that we should like try to like educate the youth that's younger, like a Strive program or some type of program that let them know how important the education is. Because usually, like when I got older, I started knowing about how important my education was when I got to high school. And that's too late for some people. Like if we get to them younger, then they won't be out there trying to start different things and be mess problems and, you know, create drama. They'll be out actually trying to do something more positive, anything that has to do with youth-led projects, anything that has to do with it. Like get them involved at a more younger age than like 13, 14, 15, probably like 9, 10, 11. Start educating them about it then, so they could actually try to do hard and work hard through middle school till high school, and like know that high school, once you pass that, it's going to really take you somewhere. Because most youth that I know, and me personally, like I ain't never really learned that until I got to high school. Like, you know, most people just don't really care about all that until they get to that sophomore, senior year. Like, oh, I'm about to graduate, I got to start thinking about college, you know. And that's why I think like the younger youth is ready to be the ones playing with guns and getting life sentences for nothing, because they're not educated enough about how important their life really is.
So we have about 3 more minutes. I want to just challenge folks who haven't said anything yet to speak up and try to remember that, to pose it in terms of a challenge, because afterwards what we're going to be talking about is how do we create some solutions. So what is another challenge? Well, one I'll throw out, actually throw one out too. I think a lot of people mentioned the budgets, right? And we don't have resources, and you know we need resources for a lot of these things to happen. I think a challenge is the way that our tax system is set up, because more low-income people pay higher percentage of tax than the wealthiest in this country. So I'm a firm supporter of progressive taxation. So I think that's one of our challenges in order to create this revenue, right? To fund these programs and services. Any other challenges?
I feel that, you know,
each student comes from different walks of life, and like not every student has the same access to resources. And while resources are out there, they might not, necessarily have a connection to them. So I feel like there needs to be a lot more work done, like, in schools, to make sure that students are connected to resources. It's kind of like a preventative service, because a lot of the time, action is only taken after, something's happened. And so a lot of work needs to be done to prevent that instead of, dealing with the mess afterwards.
I think I wrote a couple points. I know like relevant English classes, some that's authors that have the perspective of that demographic or the student that's reading that literature, so they obviously make them more interested. Lack of financial planning. There needs to be more training in financial planning, and then also training and educating about like the effects of fast food, the effects of and of how you spend your money and where.
Okay, so going off of what he said about schools, classes, something that I noticed too, like history class, it's only taught a certain way, which is the book way. And it's like other people's cultures want to be learned. Like, I'm Native American and Filipino, so I want to learn about that Native American and Filipino side. I don't want to just know about Christopher Columbus. That discouraged me to go to history class. But that just came up to mind when he started talking about classes. But the one that I was originally going to say was school funding. I think that people keep saying we're going to put more funding into schools, but the funding we're putting into schools is not being proportionate properly. Like, I feel like they're saying, okay, we're going to put it to books, we're going to give it to this, but it's really not going to that because we don't see it going to it. These classes are getting more bigger, teachers are getting less. Like, where's the money going? So I think we need to fund to make funding for schools more proper, like proportionate of where it need to go, or have someone like in charge of it or something like that.
Others? Is there anybody else who has this? Oh, yeah.
Oh, I just want to say there should be more variety in services because there are a lot of big programs and big services that have sort of become a monopoly in the city, and just that if there was more variety of services in the city for youth, that every single youth can be served, and every single youth from every single different walk of life should be served and paid attention to, because I know a lot of people who have been turned away from programs or have not gotten like adequate attention from them because there's just so many people, there's so many youth. There should be more services and just like, again, more funding for them, and different services too. Like I said, variety, so everybody can be served in like an adequate way.
So I see a few hands of people who've been consistently speaking. Is someone else who hasn't said anything? For you?
I can go. I mean, I'm not sure if you want like solid like barriers, but I was thinking like at the root of a lot of these barriers we're talking about is like racism, sexism, heterosexism, and those are all like systemic oppression that we see like manifest itself like very solidly. So like we talk about why is history class only the history of like one certain group of people, and that is racism. And a lot of times I think people don't like to name it, and people like to say that like racism doesn't exist anymore, and they have trouble naming things as being racist. But that is like a symptom of a racist society, that only one person's culture is being taught. So I think like in dealing with racism, sexism, and like ableism, and all these different like, you could go on forever with all the different systems of oppression, right? I think the first step in addressing that is really knowing yourself and knowing like if you somehow like help further these things. So I think that we all are raised to do that in a certain way. So it's really addressing like your personal, like where you are personally.
No, I like that train of thought. Is there any other ones like, because we do need to talk, I think, about the root of a lot of these problems, and that's how we can brainstorm even better for the solutions afterwards. So that's great. Brother, you haven't said that.
I think a major challenge, barrier with youth today is gang violence, because nowadays, you know, gang members are getting younger and younger, and there's nothing nobody could do about it, and it glorifies all the wrong things like money, cars, clothes, drugs, guns, and they think that's a way of life. Yeah. And people don't really reach out to them just because they're gang members. So I think people should, I don't know how to say it, but like, teach people that there's a lot more in life and in the world than just gangs and the hood, the block, drugs and whatnot. So yeah.
Thank you. I think one I want to just add on that's related to that is one real barrier too is the fact that our country is invested in so much war, right? We're involved in 3 wars right now. So, I mean, our country, our government is, I think, leading the way in modeling violent behavior, right? Truly, because that's what we're doing. We're killing people as we speak right now, right? So how can you say someone to not be violent when it's like you're currently recruiting people to go kill right now, right? So definitely, I think that's one real thing is our investment in war is a huge challenge. Yeah. Bill, you haven't said anything, bro?
I think another big challenge is trying to get a job when you don't have a diploma or a GED. Because that's why I think a lot of youths just start to fall to the streets, because since they felt like school wasn't for them, it's what else are they going to do? I can't get this job because I don't have a GED or a diploma, and I'm not trying to go back to school right now because I just couldn't do it. So next thing you know, they don't go to school, they can't get any other jobs, even the simplest job, because they don't have a diploma, so the only thing they're left with is to sell. And I think that maybe there should be more jobs to where like they'll give you a job even if you don't have your diploma or your GED, because they still need like, you know, that resource and that kind of like job skills in order for them to still go on the right path. Because if they don't have it, then they're just left with nothing.
That's a great one. Any others? I think we're coming close to our time limit. Yeah, Rochelle?
Anything about arts that's been mentioned yet. I think a lot of art programs have been cut. I don't see a lot of different or focus on like creative arts and funding for that.
I think commercials are just, I know it's supposed as like a marketing tool, but like I think that kind of impacts and influences the youth through commercials and through the media. And kind of like off of that note is through growing up, the mail that I received was from the Navy, from the Marines, the Army, but I never received any mail from UC Berkeley, which is closer to me than, you know what I mean, or from Stanford or from any other university. So what is that posing in my mind? That obviously that, I mean, I'm a strong individual to fight that thought, but as, you know what I mean, that's an indirect influencing you to what route you should go to. And I know also what you branched off of, like music classes, there's something that's related to creating more hobbies and therapy, and maybe that can be, it can help fight gang problems and stuff like that, believe it or not. But I think if you expose yourself and develop your unhidden talent, then therefore you can excel in a field that you never knew you were able to.
I also want to stress the importance of extracurricular activities and youth communities, because well, whether it be like, you know, sports or after school programs or just whatever, like something for youth to do, because, you know, every kid wants something to be passionate about, something to be, you know, involved in, to be proud of. And so if they don't have that, you know, they could alternately, you know, go down to do like lots of other things, possibly, you know, detrimental things with their free time. And so it's really important that kids can be engaged in something productive that they feel, you know, they're good at, that they can contribute to.
How would you word that as a challenge? Like you said, if there needs to be more of that?
There definitely needs to be more resources, and also kids need to know that they're available out there for them.
You guys have 2 more comments?
Mine kind of relates to the advertisement. I believe a barrier is kind of like rap music nowadays, because it's lost its whole meaning. It's always talking about everything that the fans don't have, and it's always talking about violence, getting into the wrong things. You know, they're talking about lives that they live that other people that can't live them, you know, are trying to, you know, fantasize about living it, and it doesn't really lead them anywhere. There's no feeling, there's no soul in it really anymore. And I think that it's a big problem, because it really attracts a lot of the youth of today, and it's just a bad message.
Yeah, I would even go further in adding that is that even more than rap, it's just kind of our pop culture, right? Promotes these ideals and as the positive things, and to be honest, even kind of the name of this, to be completely honest, the name of this called Winning the Futures, kind of promoting that competitive, that yourself, you know what I mean, type of a little more greedy type of mentality, you know what I mean? It's more communal. Just throw it out there. Any others? Yeah.
I think financial accessibility and the government providing more funds for like youth and poor generation people to go to college is one thing that should be approached, because a lot of times people don't have funds to go to universities and they get scared and pushed away from it because they know that one day that if they don't provide the funds needed, they'll have to go into debt getting all these loans and whatnot. So I feel like if there was more financial aid or scholarships available, then a lot of people would go and push forward for more education in their lives so they can be more productive.
Right on. Well, thank you all very, very much. Y'all have great ones. And now the next part is going to be even more challenging, because we're going to be talking about how we could brainstorm to have some solutions for these problems, right? Thank you.
So you guys did a phenomenal job brainstorming a list of the barriers and challenges to reaching our ideal communities that we talked about. So Vanessa right now is going to facilitate a discussion about the solutions. That's a really, really big task. So we wanted to start really small, and we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to speak. So Vanessa's going to explain our next activity where all of us are going to participate.
So what I'm going to do is pass out one sticky note to every person, and what you're going to do is write down one solution, or one thing you can do to work towards addressing one of these topics that we just brainstormed. Are there any questions? Cool. So just take one and pass it around.
Really quickly, you've already shouted out a bunch of solutions already. So you're already on the track. And if anyone needs a sticky, just let me know. So you can look at the barriers that you've already shouted up, and you can pick one of these barriers and a solution to one of these barriers. Or if there's something that didn't get up here that you really think is a barrier or challenge, write that down and an idea or solution or how to go about making that change for that barrier. People need pens. Who needs more stickies? Or any stickies? If people want to write more, just let me know. I'll give you more. People want to read it. And I made it right. A solution. Yes,
Oh, okay. If you guys get stuck at all, take a look at this board. If you want, you can come on up and look closer.
If you need to decipher some of my handwriting, let me know. Unfortunately, spell check with my best friend in college. Are people still looking at barriers? Do you still need to see this one?
Alright, so everybody take about 1 minute to wrap up your thoughts. And then after you're done, find someone to pair up with and just share with them. this out of and maybe just share out whatever you want about solutions.
Well, I think I have like 3 different things, but it's all centered around one theme that's for the family. And so one of them is like for outside, I guess we can use like government and stuff to support the idea of a family structure. Because there's a lot of, services for youth, for children, for, adults and stuff. But none centered around just like the family, like keeping the families together. And also having families, support their youth, if the youth, so their children will be able to come to their parents and say, this is what I'm going through, or their parents saying, you need to focus on your education and be like, and stop selling drugs and like all this other stuff. Or because a lot of these challenges come just from, parents not being involved in their children's lives, and youth not being talking to their parents. And lastly is promoting fatherhood, just because there's a lot of single moms out there, even like single dads, but just making sure like the guys know that, they have to, if they have a kid, like they have to step up and be that parent for their child. Supporting family.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I said stop spending money on unnecessary matters and started using it on education. I feel like most of the money is being used in military and like officers or like presidents traveling expenses and all that, when like success is defined from education, and that's where most of the cuts are being happening, and like on health and all those essential stuff that people need. And also like have a big pool of money where like every time there's like somebody wants to create an organization or something to help youth, and just so they will have the ability to create it and like make change.
My main point was to mobilize the youth vote. Even though youth, of course, under 18, of course, can't vote, those transitional age youth from 18 to 24 have one of the lowest turnout rates for voting. And compared to, older people, and especially those over 60 who have the highest turnout rate, it really makes a difference because, for example, politicians, they never talk about cutting, Social Security or Medicare, because they know that it will alienate one of the biggest voting platforms, which is older people. And if this had the same effect with youth, then they wouldn't, cut from education as soon as there's a budget crisis, or cut from stuff that they know aren't going to lose as many votes. So,
I said I have a few cultural competency trainings for all youth service providers, so there'll be safe spaces for youth, less focus on military and police funding and more on education. Also diverse education for youth, art therapy and art classes for all arts, music, writing, film, stuff like that, and transitional services, restorative justice, and no tax cuts for the wealthy, so more funding for the less wealthy and poor.
That's a good one. I have a few also. One I have is just reprioritizing, like someone else said here earlier, like pulling out our troops from war and putting like money that that we would save from divesting in war into our education system to repair it. Another is to change the definition of a corporation, because right now they're currently defined as people or individuals, which is pretty crazy, and that allows them to put in, as their resources into campaigns, into props, into candidates, and overpowers the voice of the real people, which of course obviously their voice is louder if they have millions of dollars to throw at a campaign or at someone's publicity. Another is to restructure the justice system. Obviously the United States sends our people to jail like crazy. In California, we're like the 48th in education and the top, I think the first in terms of prison spending, which is just crazy. It doesn't set the example, that I know we talk about here and that you talk about, we all agree. We want our students to be educated and be the future leaders, but we're not setting that example by our actions in terms of at the state level and then at the federal level as well. and focusing more on restorative justice rather than just sending them to jail where they don't truly get rehabilitated. Another, which is I think is connected to this, is adding ethnic studies from the middle school level. Like research shows, that a lot of students start, when they start skipping school, a lot around 8th grade, and then that transition from 8th to 9th is really hard to make. And there's already research that shows that there's indicators that if you're skipping a certain amount of classes around these times, that you're not going to graduate on time, or you're just not going to graduate. So we need to take active stance, and I think ethnic studies is a big part of that, because like folks were here saying earlier, that if you're learning from that Eurocentric perspective and just being taught about how your people have been colonized and your people have been killed or your people have been enslaved, and not focusing also on the beauty of our cultures that we all come from and the power that we've had and we do have, and in our traditions and cultures that I think will empower us and give us the pride to care more about ourselves, to maybe not join a gang and care more about trying to be a leader in our community, because our past societies have had have done amazing things. Another thing is the progressive taxation. I think that obviously, like Rochelle was saying, the wealthy pay a lower percentage, and I think that needs to change in order for us to get the resources that DCYF needs to distribute into the community, that the school district needs to do execute the plans that and ideas that a lot of people have. There's amazing ideas that don't get to ever happen because those resources aren't there. So those are just a few of those. Thanks. Oops, sorry, my bad.
All right, well, I'll do this fast. I think like a training facilities for proposition like workshops, like all the propositions that are going to be on the ballot, then they should be informed whether the effects and what can happen with that to increase like the voting, the polls, increase the votings. And also I feel like the high school A through G requirements, I think they should be requirements for universities. So like you're guaranteed that you fulfilled all your necessary requirements in order to apply for a university. Scholarships, stipends, or financial aid for middle school and high school students. And it also, if AB 540 students, and last, a detailed budget that's exposed to the community, because I know we have an overview of this much millions being going here, but also like a detailed budget to exactly what exactly is that going to. Maybe people could take more of initiative to say no to some of those things.
Mine is more general, just basically reaching out to youth and letting them know that they do matter and that they are, the future. And just basically reach out to youth and let them know that they don't gotta resort to streets or gangs or any of that, that there is alternatives to a better life.
Okay, so mine is basically just like, okay, so I remember saying one of the barriers I was saying was like with the younger youth. So I'm saying like with the younger youth, probably have like mentors or counselors for them who like you can see is going in the wrong direction. As far as the schools, you could ask them like what they're passionate about and try to incorporate that into the school, or like have like a youth-led project or something like that. I think that we need to have someone like a group of people actually like really focused on the youth that is like working with the underground street economy in urban communities like foster care and incarcerated, because them is like the real main youth that I think need help. And they're not going to ask for help. They're locked up and all, like they're not going to say I need help. They're locked up. This shows they need help. They're not going to come to you and be like I need you to help me with this. They're not going to want to change, and we need someone to push them to want to change and want to get help and to understand that there's a better place that they could be at. I feel like that we need to start, okay, so in the news, mostly everything you see is negative. I think we need to start covering positive events. So it could like show in the media that we have more positive things and like take over this media with this image that the society is upholding upon us as far as man and woman, this in the box media, how we're supposed to be thin and tall and slim or whatever. If we start like showing positive things that's going on in communities instead of all these negative things that's happening on the news, I think it'll be like a ripple effect and start something like, yeah.
Probably next.
Sorry. I would like to advocate for a comprehensive program that really meets the needs of individual youth on an individual basis. Because just like how a doctor really prescribes medical regimens for each individual patient, I feel like each student is, a distinct, unique person, each with their own needs that, have to be met in order for them to be successful. So I wish to create a program that will meet the needs of each individual student. And to do this, I think we need to do two things. So first, we would need to really strengthen the role of a counselor in schools. And so that, because students might not necessarily have a supporting, home environment or supporting community. So it's really important that they have at least one, mentor or leader that they can look up to in their life. And so if we provide this in their schools, they can, that person can potentially make a great difference in their life. Which leads to my second point, which is that we need to streamline youth services between schools and community organizations, because a lot of the time resources are out there and students don't know how to get them, and they end up not getting them until it's too late. So if there is a strong mentor or leader role in their life, like a counselor who can be there to recommend them to these services, I think that can make a great difference in a lot of students' lives.
I think my solution is increasing communication among youth group among themselves, among youth and then maybe parents, the community, and youth communication between youth and decision makers. Because I think, for example, mentors are really good for youth, because I think that myself, from my personal experience, I just come to this country like almost 2 years ago. I think I know a lot of immigrants go to the wrong path, become gang, and got into those messy stuff. I think the reason I'm not like them, because I think my parents told me that how hard it is for my family to come here, and also a lot of teachers at school really are my mentor. They really encouraged me to become a good person, and to give me this opportunity to be here to speaking. So I think that if we have more mentor to set up a good positive role model for youth, that's really good. And also, to have more opportunities like this, so then youth know that decision makers care about them. So then, and they also look for where they come from, like ethnic classes, so they know where we're from. So we know what are the inspiration for us to move forward. And also, I think that corporations should pay more taxes, so then we can have more income, so that we have more resources can provide for youth. Because I think they make a lot of money, they are wealthiest people in the country, but then they pay very limited taxes, so then I think that's one way we have more income. And also I think there should be more specified services for youth with different needs, because some, we have different groups like LGBTQ group, we have immigrants, we have low-income students, so then they just have different needs. So then I hope that we have specialized services, so then we can help them more effectively. Yeah.
I think we need more things youth ran, because when the youth are put in charge of everything, and they don't have to feel like they have to listen to an adult, it makes them more motivated in order to actually come and do more work, because they feel like they're in charge, they're doing everything. They don't have to listen to a person who kind of belittles them at times or in any other situations. And that's how I feel here. It's what makes me motivated to come every day, because we run it. They ask us what we want to do, what we want to be put in and everything, and we come up with it. Now, if it's just, you do this, you do that, you do this, you're not going to always like it. So I think if it's more youth-ran stuff, then a lot of kids will be motivated to actually participate in more things.
And I feel more diverse classes early on in school would be a good solution, because lack of motivation in school, I personally experienced it really early, because I never really got interested in school until I hit college and realized I can learn about a lot of things. I wasn't really interested in education, because I didn't really want to learn the set education line that they were trying to teach me. I wanted to learn my own things. I wanted to learn about my own culture. And that wasn't really provided in high school. And once I hit college, I realized I can learn about almost anything. And I feel if we were to provide diverse classes early on in elementary school, even, you kids can get more interested and hopefully stay in school. And yeah.
I put that we should fund more organizations that help teen parents get the necessities they need if they can't afford it, so the children grow up with all the things that they need so they won't have to resort to negativity because they grew up wrong.
Mine's with regards to juvenile justice, and it's about kids on probation, because I feel like they're a factor in this too, not just people, regular individuals, but those on probation as well. Their POs, I feel that should help guide them more and tell them what's out there, like they can do this, they can do that, help them figure out what there is to do in their communities, as opposed to just calling them to make sure they're at home or making sure they're at school, because that's not doing anything but making it seem like they're just the police. But if they're more engaging with them, then I feel like the kid, whoever's on probation, would want to do right, because they know that there's more things out there for them rather than their PO complaining or calling them to make sure they're where they're supposed to be at.
I think one solution would be to inform youth and juveniles and immigrants and all these different type of people who come together in the community about how our government and our local education system works, how the board is, who is in charge of HUD, who is in charge of this. This is how they have to do a budget. This is the type of turnover that happens every 5 years when you get somebody new in office. So they can understand, okay, now things are different because of this. They're not different because of my mother telling me no, or because of my mentor in the program telling me I can't come back this year to work. They're different because of this reason in the physical budget. I think if youth and parents and all these different people were explained this and how it works, they can have a different understanding of when their time is up in MAIP, or why they don't have basketball this year for 10 boys and only you feel that they don't have basketball this year for 10 boys and not 20. Like, I think it would better give the youth an understanding, so we just don't ask for funds. We know how these funds work and how they come in, so when we do ask for them, we know what we're asking for, more detail oriented, as opposed to just asking for all this money and all these things that we know we need, we deserve, we want, but how does it work? How can we help in generating that to give it back to us as youth as a whole? Like, what if we had our own fund? What if it was something that youth put their own tax money into to generate revenue for us? So, okay, I worked, I should be able to give money to somebody else's younger sibling to go and work too, if there was a fund for us that we had say so and that we voted for. I think that's a beautiful idea, because we just can't say we want this and that. We need to know how it works so we can get that. And I think people should be more informed on how that works.
Right. I think that there needs to be more funding for youth who have been in the system, so they could have more resources and organizations, so they could have just a safe place to be instead. And I think that could create a lot more gang prevention at the same time.
I think that more foundations or services specified for lower income students should be available out there, so it can give lower income students a more competitive edge towards their college education, opposed to those who are already rich enough to go to these big universities where the lower income students want to go to, but they can't afford to go to. So yeah.
One of the really big barriers I felt was that a lot of young people don't feel like they're taken seriously, and since the most time we spend is in school, I think that the standards for teachers should be raised. Like, I've visited a lot of schools, and some of the teachers just lounge, have their students do whatever. It's not, it's not really helping students to be educated and to have more knowledge. It's like professors and colleges and universities are getting paid, and teachers who are supposed to teach us and motivate us to want to go to continuing higher education, are just sort of lounging. So it's sort of backwards. And I feel like once the teachers, their standards are raised, that they should get paid more, because they shouldn't have to, have a side job, to support themselves, to be like, okay, I want to teach my students, but, I want to get them supplies, I want to get them books, but they should get paid more, so that they don't have to, look for that money in their family, with their family, or, on other things. So, yeah.
So I have two. My first one is prioritize youth when it comes to deciding how to distribute the budget. And the second one would be to change the education system. I feel like currently in school, it's always just the teacher lectures, I go home and do homework, and I take tests, and that's how my grade is determined. I wish that classes were more hands-on, in which like I feel like I'll learn more that way if I'm actually doing what I'm learning and whatnot. It'll go through my head and it'll stay in there rather than, oh, I'm just studying for this test. I feel like a lot of people just kind of forget everything they learn after the test. So if everything was more hands-on, I think people will learn more.
Did everybody get a chance to share what they wanted to share?
Vanessa, can you share?
Yeah, so I thought about youth organizing, and I think we're all really amazing community leaders in this room. And it's important that I think youth can do anything with the amount of like support and resources. So I think having more adult allies available to us and just support for us, because I think youth we all have the ideas. And we have amazing things we want to do, and just to have the support and funding to do those things is what we really need to see those ideas come to life. Cool, so I'm just going to go ahead and close out this piece. Y'all came up with really, really amazing ideas. And what we're going to do is I'm going to collect all the Post-its from you, and then I think they're going to be typed up and sent to the White House staff. So if you just pass it towards this way.
So now we're going to transition to a question and answer session with Mr. Trasvinia. We know that you all have a lot of burning questions, so we've allotted about 15 to 20 minutes for you all to ask questions about the whole roundtable process, about some of the issues that you talked about. Would a brave youth like to ask the first question? Something maybe that's been brewing throughout the process? Sorry, can you repeat that? So we're going to do a question and answer session for Mr. Trasvinia. So if you have any questions in general about the roundtable process, about what's going to happen afterwards with the data that's collected, now would be the time to ask it.
Yeah, I had a question. I'm just wondering, since schools are different in different areas of the country, how will there be like a national policy created to benefit all the schools in different areas?
The question is how, given that schools are locally run, thanks to people like you, how are we going to come up with some national policies? And this is less focused on schools than it is on youth and young people. So in school, out of school, in high school, in community colleges, in four-year schools, and not in schools, and making sure that there are job training programs and other programs for youth. So we're taking back these ideas from around the country. There are some programs that are specifically, federal programs specifically geared to elementary, secondary education. The No Child Left Behind program has been around it started out as part of the civil rights movement in the 60s as the first federal support for public education came in 66 and 67. Same time as the Fair Housing Act, which is my work in fair housing, same time as Fair Employment, Voting Rights, Immigration Act. It started out as the Elementary Secondary Education Act. It was Head Start, first bilingual education programs, and other types of programs. So over the years, it's been updated every few years. In the past few years, we've had what's called No Child Left Behind. A lot of concern, a lot of criticisms back and forth about what No Child Left Behind was. It brought on the advent of a lot of the standardized testing, the testing of and we've got schools that are failed schools or troubled schools. So all of that is now part of the federal policy. So a lot of how Washington Department of Education, Congress can act, it goes through promoting things that through federal dollars, promoting good ideas. Sometimes it's just sending dollars down to the school district, say, you know what's best. You have these discussions about how best the money can be used. So there's a balance between what the federal government wants done and also what the locals want done.
Can I just add a little bit to that? Because we do take advantage a lot of the federal dollars that come down, and it is really difficult for Arnie Duncan, who's our Secretary of Education, to do national policy when all of our districts are very different. But some of the things that you guys spoke about today, we do try to tap into those resources. So like the SIG grants, which help our schools that are the lowest performing in our district, there's additional dollars that come down from the feds for that. There's a jobs bill that's enabled us to keep our teachers because of the budget cuts that have been devastating from the state level. So there's a lot of different things, whether it's the juvenile justice component, whether it's looking at family services, or thinking about what promised neighborhoods. There's federal dollars that'll come down for promised neighborhoods. So we're going to be looking to see how we bring communities together in different areas of our city, and we'll apply for those dollars. So we do take advantage of what the feds do think about. And this, so a lot of the things that you guys are talking about today, some of those things are already in the works, and this is a great opportunity for them to hear more about those solutions, so that there would be more dollars available for the needs in the different communities. But you got to remember, federal dollars go across the nation, and we're one of the largest cities in the country, and so there's rural and there's suburban, and then there's the urban areas that are all vying for the same dollars, and so it's really challenging.
So, being that San Francisco has, a semi-huge population of people who live in underdeveloped housing, what are you guys doing to try to combat this problem? Because you have kids growing up in the harshest of poverty, trying to go to school every day, and their house isn't up to maintenance codes and building codes, and buses don't even run through there for them to get home at night or even in the morning, and just a number of things that the planning department and many other entities have to combat to get that up to par. What are you guys doing in DC to combat that across the United States?
Well, of course, one of the major things that HUD does, my Department of Housing and Urban Development, is to support through something called the Community Development Block Grant Program. It's dollars every year that go to particular communities, what's called entitlement communities. San Francisco is one of them. Money going to the housing authorities. The actual decisions, sometimes we set priority type of programs. Talking about choice neighborhoods or promised neighborhoods, to be able to say these are some things where we want to invest. But on the whole, it is up to local communities to have meetings like this with people across the community. Say what are the impediments? What are the impediments to fair housing? Where should the federal dollars that come in, where should they be invested? And more and more we are looking at the impact of where you grow up, where you live. Obviously determines where you go to school, but also determines so many other outcomes in your life. And a few years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court made it more difficult for school officials to fight segregation within the schools in terms of where students can, what the enrollment patterns, where students can go to school. So if the school officials can't deal with desegregation, can't take on particular programs, that means the housing people have to do it. So we try to reduce concentrations of poverty and make sure that thinking through all the various types of investments. So it's housing in a certain place, but are there grocery stores around there? Can grocery stores or other types of amenities be placed in those communities? Same thing with the transit along 3rd Street, that the impact that the 3rd Street line has on local business and on housing. Some of the work that's going to be done out off of Bayshore where Candlestick is in the next 20, 30 years. Those are going to be developments that are partly funded by HUD, partly funded by other places, but it's a matter of getting communities together so they can talk about, well, how best are things going to be done. I think what you said earlier about communication, about people, I think people are entitled. People are entitled to know what's going on with the budgets. A lot of what is said here, a lot of the things that you have identified as barriers, it's extraordinarily important to know what people perceive as barriers. Some of them, if you had information, which you're entitled to get, and public officials should be providing it in a better way, you would say, well, some of these things are actually happening, some of them are clearly not happening. So there's a difference then in terms of what's our strategy moving forward. Is it continuing to aim for that, like on equity of school funding, or is it already there? We were just, Hyde and I were saying, well, what if a student went from a school on the west side of town to the east side of town, anywhere in the country? Would they say, wow, this is exactly what I get on my part of town? Or would they say, this is extraordinarily different? And once we have that level of communication, that level of knowledge, it can help shape a lot of the decision making.
Because today we give you kind of qualitative opinion instead of those quantitative data. So how will our input today to affect your decision making in Washington D.C.?
Well, the information and the perspectives that are here are going to be taken down in notes and on the tape and sent back to the White House staff, and they will evaluate them compared to other groups like this in different places around the country. We will start to see perhaps different themes, and Secretary of Education, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. One of the things that Leah mentioned earlier about supporting fatherhood. Well, on June the 20th, HUD is at public housing authorities across the country where we are having a Father's Day focusing on importance of the father in the family, the types of whether it's health education or whether it's parenting education, information about domestic violence. So those are the type of things that the federal government can do to support at the local level. I would encourage you to look on that and look for it at HUD.gov/Father's Day 2001 because I'm hoping San Francisco is going to participate in that because obviously the needs are here and in other places. We in Fair Housing and HUD have put out new policies to protect women who are in public housing who may be subject to domestic violence. That typically in public housing, if a crime goes on in your unit, that's grounds for eviction. Well, if the crime happens to be domestic violence and you're the domestic violence victim, it's blatantly unfair to kick that person out, that whole family out, because of the violence that they were a victim of. So our approach has been to say that is a potentially gender discrimination because we know most domestic violence is against women. Some of the other things that we're doing regarding LGBT families. The laws were written about access to HUD programs for families. Well, traditionally the family has been mother, father, kids, dog, etc. Now we've got all sorts of different families, and our job to be reflective of what's going on in America in 2011 is to be open to all families. So we are setting up policies that will be finalized later this year that says that decision making on housing cannot be based upon sexual orientation, can't be based upon gender identity, can't be based on marital status. So those are the type of things that when we hear from people around the country, we can go back and we can maybe shape a regulation or shape the law to be able to be responsive and be reflective of the needs.
I was going to ask, will you be returning to our communities or releasing a report or something so that we know how this information is actually going to, be used? I know you kind of started to speak about it a little bit, but went other places with it, and I was just wondering, so that we know, what is something tangible that actually came out of this.
Well, let me say two things. The official part of the process is that we're taking this down. We're taking it back to the White House. So we'll develop. I believe we'll develop a report, but it will be infused in the different departments, and depending on how the information shakes out, it could lead to particular programs. It could lead to legislative changes. It could mean greater communication. A lot of what we're doing in HUD is we support local communities. So the actual decision making about how HUD dollars are used are made right here in San Francisco for San Franciscans. So in that respect, this information today will feed into our own HUD process, and certainly with the city officials who are here. Beyond that, I have learned a lot from today. And if Old School Cafe or if all of you would have me again, I'd love to come back in 2-3 months and say, well, okay, well, we met in May. What have we learned in 90 days? What have we learned in 120 days? So that it's not just one-shot deal. I go back to Washington, forget about this. It's going to be me being held accountable as a member of the Obama administration, and Hydra and Maria and others being held accountable to you. So we can come back and say, here's what we learned from other parts of the country, and here's what we think we're going to go forward on, and what can we do together to get a lot of this done. A lot of this is you're in a really good place. San Francisco's big, important city. It's only 49 square miles, 7 miles and 7 miles. A lot can be done. You have great access to your mayor, to Supervisor Cohen, and to the President of the Board of Education, and a lot of people. These are the people who, along with HUD, make the decisions. So I'd be happy to come back and hear from you again, let you know what we've done, so that there's not just one opportunity, but multiple opportunities.
Consider yourself invited back to the school.
Thank you.
So we have time for 1 to 2 brief questions.
Is this sort of like assessment going to be held annually, or how is that going to work?
Well, the immediate process, the national one, it's going to be done a little bit quicker than that. So we'll have some indication over the next couple of months as to what we've learned, and then what we can do with the information. In terms of annual, as I said, I'd be happy to come back earlier than annually to continue this dialogue.
I know that your department focuses on fair housing, but how will this whole federal process affect other services other than housing towards youth locally here in San Francisco?
Well, our work in housing, fair housing, affects all property. So if you or family seeking an apartment or a home and you feel you've been discriminated against, that's where we can get involved and we can take action. But in terms of housing decisions, the housing decision and where you live has an impact on so many other things, on what your access is to hospitals, to healthy foods, to playgrounds, etc., schools, so that the housing as a platform for advancement and empowerment of people is really important. So it's an indirect way of dealing with education issues and health issues, but it's also just as important. I think beyond the individual decisions that need to be made, I can't stress enough the importance of this communication. The communication from you to educate us, but also we're obligated to let you know what's going on, whether it's in Washington or whether it's City Hall. And just in the past few months, of the young people, 20, 25 years old, maybe 30 years old in Egypt, made major changes because they were able to communicate through the internet and through all the various social media that are being used, and they turned around the leadership of that country. So that can be done at an international level. It can certainly be done here in terms of getting some issues on the table and having them treated very seriously. And you are about 20 young people in San Francisco. By virtue of being here today, or by virtue of what you've done the rest of the time, you are leaders. By virtue of what you're doing today, you are speaking for many others. But your ability to go back and talk to people, and your there you are. Your focus on making sure that the younger youth know about what their rights are, know about what their different choices are. You're right. When you're a junior in high school, some things may be kind of too late, but a junior in high school is the best person to be talking to that 6th grader or 7th grader, so you can speak the same language and get them focused on the right road. So each one of us has a responsibility. You certainly are more than fulfilling your responsibility today in helping us and helping others. So I greatly appreciate it, and know that your words are going back to Washington, D.C., and then hold us accountable to see what changes there are to be made.
Thank you. As we begin to wind down, I just want to say that the work that you guys have done here today has been phenomenal. The conversation, the dialogue, the discussion, this has been great. I wish I could definitely participate in more forums like this. Power is knowledge, and knowledge rules the world. And you guys have the power, you have the knowledge, and I know you're going to take the world by storm. The ideal communities that you came up with, the solutions, the policies that you've thrown out, the different programs, the activities that you feel we're going to need nationally and locally, we're going to take that information and definitely do something with it, especially locally. I can only speak for locally here at DCYF, but it's great to be able to hear it from you guys. And I wanted to open it up really quickly if Hydra or Maria and even Ane wants to have any closing marks before we wind down. And then we're going to give you guys the opportunity, hopefully not the last, but to be able to tell President Obama what is one recommendation or one thing that you want him to know from you before you leave here today. So,
thank you. So on the local level, it is really important to have a mayor that gets behind you. And as Mayor Lee was leaving, he actually took one of the worksheets that you guys did, your brainstorming session with him, because he has like 7 other events this evening and today, and he wanted to be able to articulate what happened here in the brief time he was here to the larger community. So wherever he's going, he has your little sheet, and he's going to say, this is where I was this morning talking to the youth about, and these are the things that are really important to them. And that's what's important to him. And it's been really great having transitioned from a mayor who was already active in the youth community and with education to someone who's equally as passionate about the work that you're doing. So your voice is definitely heard. And Maria and I work really closely together with the mayor to ensure that the youth resources and voice continue to be part of our administration. And then on the school district side, we do everything we possibly can to give you guys the high quality education you deserve. And we were out fighting yesterday with the teachers union on the budget cuts, and we're going to continue to have as loud a voice as possible until we can get the dollars that you deserve. As Luis was saying, we're 48th in the state, in the country, in terms of per pupil spending. And I mean, we're less than $5,000 next year, you guys, of what we're going to be able to provide a high quality education. And other states have upwards of $15,000 to educate their youth. And it's a huge discrepancy, and we really need to think about how we come together and not fight about the little crumbs that we do have. And this is the kind of form that's really helpful for me as a leader to think about how we allocate those dollars. So thank you for taking your Saturday and coming out and sharing.
So I just wanted to briefly say thank you. Also, just echoing Hydra. I think I've heard some of you speak, and I know the power and the passion that you have. And for us today, you're able to share this to other leaders, but then hopefully this will have a ripple effect to the rest of the city, and then to the rest of the state, and then to the rest of the country. I really, really appreciate Mr. Trevina for coming today, and then for the mayor and Supervisor Cohen for being here earlier, because I think what they got to see was what we in our department at DCYF sees every day, which is give a young person the mic, and they will be able to help you figure out how to meet all of those policy agendas and all those problems that we as adults sit around saying, oh my God, what do we do around truancy? What do we do around access? And what do we do around violence prevention work? And this is the reason why DCYF has such a strong commitment to youth voice and youth empowerment, which is why we convene you guys all the time, which is why we ask you all those hard questions, because we believe that the answers are here and the answers are with you guys. So thank you so much for your participation today, and for just being honest. And I think that's what I'm leaving today with. So thank you.
And Maria, your staff, Charisse and Nayad, you guys have been fantastic in organizing this. So thank you so much for all the work you did to make this happen.
Yeah, sure. Let me give you a little idea of, I'm from the Office of Fair Housing. Secretary Trevina is our Assistant Secretary in Washington, D.C., and I'm from the local office. What do we do in fair housing? What is fair housing, and where do you come in? We're the office where people file their complaints. For example, you try to move somewhere, your family tries to go somewhere, and you think that you're not being rented to because you're African American, because you're Latino, because you're Asian. We're the office you come to, because that is against the law. Your family wants to move in and they have children, there's children in the family, and the landlord says, I'm sorry, I don't accept children. That is against the law. That is what our office takes care of. You talked about older people, a little bit about older people and their Medicare and their Social Security. Guess what? They call us up all the time because we also protect those who are disabled. But there is no reason why you cannot call us up when you see incidents where your parents are affected, where you're affected, where your friends are affected. We're here. We're part of the government. Your taxpayer money goes to us. That's why we were created. I brought a lot of bags, pens with our number. Call us up. We are a free service, and it is our job to investigate these matters. It is our job to protect you. Remember, if you file with us, there is protection. And what we also do is we try to resolve the matter. We try to get the housing, because simply it is against the law. No matter how tough your manager is, no matter how tough the owner of the project is, it doesn't matter. It is against the law, and we're going to make sure that these things don't happen. That is what my office does. You guys have to call us. You guys have to be out there, your eyes and ears. Don't let the old people keep calling us. We're taking care of them. But what about you? What about your family? Please take those bags home because we have our number. Call us up. This was what our office does. This is what fair housing is. Prohibits discrimination. I'll tell you the areas. Race, color, religion, national origin, sex, disability, familial status. And as Secretary Trezvina told you, we're also looking into gender biases. But the chief thing is, this is against the law. You can't let it happen with that. And we're not around every neighborhood. We don't know that it's happening. We depend on you to tell us. Call us up. Let us know. If it's a friend, give us a name and number. That's all we care about, is to make sure that people aren't being discriminated in housing. Also in community programs. We talk about, you've all raised funding issues. Part of what HUD does is we give money to the city of San Francisco. We give money to the state. You need to let them know what to do with that money, because they make these decisions. We give them the money, but it's their decisions, but they need to hear your voices. Somebody was talking about older people saving their Social Security and Medicare. Darn right they are. But what about you? What about all these programs that you're talking about that don't get funding, don't have funding? You have your mayor. You had Malia Cohen here. You have your representatives. These people are there to serve you. Don't forget, that's what they're there for. That's what you got to pick up the phone when you hear that they're going to be in town. Show up. Tell them what's important to you, because they're supposed to serve you. They're not there for themselves. They're there for you. Don't forget, you have powerful voices. So, I'm waiting for some phone calls. Next week, I hope to have some phone calls. But again, in that table, we have the pens, we have the bags and stuff. Take them home with you. And remember those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Nay. Thank you, Maria, Hydra, Secretary Trasvinia. Thank you very much. So for our closing activity, which all of you know, we are going to go around the round table, and we're actually going to stand for this. And so the question that we posed earlier that we wanted you guys to think about was, if President Obama were to walk through this door right now, and you were to give him one policy recommendation to improve the lives of youth, what would it be? And now the challenge is it has to be within about 15 to 20 seconds. So I know almost all of you had about the whole time to kind of marinate and think about this. So Vanessa, Desiree, which side should we go on first? I can start. Okay guys, we're gonna stand on up.
So, Naya, does that have to be like a specific policy? Because no.
You want to be as broad and as specific as you want, but the more specific, the more useful.
Okay. I'll just say in all the policies that he's like working through, to think about and consider how it affects queer and transgender and gender variant folks. So, I know that a lot of times like there's a lot of barriers because of homophobia and transphobia for those communities to speak up. So just to have them in mind and to work with them.
I would suggest that to make education more diverse, have more variety to it so that it could fit different people's needs.
There's so many things, but speaking on behalf of young people, I want to invest in myself, and I need help doing that because I don't have much to my name, so I just need as much help as I can get, once again, speaking on behalf of young people.
I would like to say more funds and foundations towards, like I was saying earlier, lower income students to provide a new college experience for them and money. So.
We need more funding for schools on all levels.
I would like for President Obama to push for more ethnic studies so people can learn about themselves and learn the role that they're destined to play and not the role that they've played for many years.
My overall thing is just universal health care for all.
I would say allow youths more job opportunities, especially youths who have had criminal records.
Basically, same thing, piggybacking. It costs like $120,000 to incarcerate a youth, and it costs about $120,000 to employ about 25 youth. So I think more youth jobs.
I think funding more schools instead of taking money out of them.
More for youth forum like this so that decision makers can know what youth actually think and less budget cut.
I would like, I would like there to be more access to resources for students so that they can get the resources that they need, and for there to be more mentors in the roles, more mentors in the lives of youth.
If President Obama walked through the door today, my advice to him would be about the juvenile justice system and how I feel that it should be more, what's the word you said? Restorative justice. Basically, I feel like, okay, I heard in the past 5 years, $20 billion been took out of budget cuts. 22 prisons or juvenile facilities was made in one college. And I just feel that's just not right. So I feel like there needs to be like more programs, alternatives to going just straight to jail, like people that want to change, want to do better. For example, like if someone were to do graffiti, they can go clean up their graffiti, something like that, Mm-hmm. But that's my advice that I would give to Obama.
The advice I'll give to Obama is focus more on youth. Like just give them support, whether it's helping them find a job, support them emotionally, mentally, and education is good for future. So more support.
Mr. President, there needs to be, since there is continued funding and investment in prisons and jails and juvenile justice systems, therefore there needs to be more adequate schooling in those institutions and training programs to prepare them once they are released.
If the president came through right now, I would say to President Obama, I hope that you hear my actual voice, end wars, end the school to prison pipeline, pass progressive taxation to actually create revenue for education and services our community needs, pass the DREAM Act, but don't only pass that, and actually stop the deportations that have increased during your administration and the increase in Border Patrol, and respect treaties with the Native Americans nations.
I would say more transitional services to the homeless LGBTQ population because that population is not only hindered by their homelessness but also by their gender and sex orientation, and they also receive a lot of discrimination even in San Francisco, where we're known for our gay population, and just more services for them, just like when the second they walk into a program, to start helping them, not putting them in, job readiness programs, but actually giving them the jobs and actually giving them opportunities to work within that community and to be leaders instead of just kind of hindering them into small opportunities and just give them big opportunities. So.
This might become an awkward test from a politician who's going to run for re-election soon, but to really support political education that's unbiased and for youth so that this American democracy can grow and everybody can be represented equally.
My advice would be that college education should be fair for everybody, for low-income, AB 540 students. The DREAM Act should be passed because it is more of like the parents' decision instead of the young people.
My advice to President Obama would be to prioritize education by providing more Pell Grants and grants for students who are unable to afford college, and also to provide funding for colleges that aren't spending enough per pupil so they can meet the threshold with other states.
My advice would be to fund more nonprofit organizations and programs along with jobs that'll keep youth off the streets and keep them busy working.
Wraps up our youth forum, and I just want to say thank you again to our national and local leaders, but especially thank you to you guys, because you guys are the ones that make this happen. So thank you, and there is lunch for you. So thanks.